Hi everyone, my name is Sydney Wilson and I am so beyond thrilled to be sharing my mic with you all today. I'd like to first and foremost give a huge shout to Exhale 980 on the Upper East Side and Aaron for the opportunity to do this. This means the absolute world to me because I love working for Exhale. The company is amazing and we truly do focus on total well-being, including mind, body, and soul. And in order to achieve total well-being, this topic is something that we need to hone in on, we need to understand, and we need to give it a chance. So I'm really just ecstatic to share my voice and my own personal story with you today. So I'd love to make very clear today that I am not here to give a history lesson. I'm not here to lecture. I am genuinely here to connect with you and to share my own very personal story about growing up in a predominantly white environment. I have a huge network of white friends. I have white people in my family. And you know, I'm here to share a message that's very heartfelt and very sincere and hopefully very relatable for you. So yeah, I think we can just get into it. I'd like to tell you 3 of the things that we're going to be covering today. The first is I'm going to share my own personal experience with one of my closest friends. She is a lifetime friend. I went to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. and she also went to Georgetown with me. I was an athlete. She was also an athlete. My last name is Wilson. Her last name is also Wilson. But there are some differences there, so I'll get into that. So I'm excited to share that. And then second, we'll get into a Q&A. As I know there's a lot of questions out there, and sometimes you just need to hear from the source, the answer. So we'll get into that. I'll share questions and answers, and then we'll wrap it up with a quote that I find to be very inspiring and motivational about this crazy year that we call 2020. So please stay tuned, and I'm really excited to dive into this with you all. So first, I'd like to share. So first, like I said, I'm going to share my personal story with a good friend of mine. Her name is Annie Wilson. We share the same last name. I went to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. undergrad. I was a political science major, which has a lot to do with the fact that I'm so passionate about this topic and just making sure we're all educated and on the same page. But I did go to Georgetown, and I met my friend Annie at Georgetown. I was an athlete, a Division I athlete. I played women's basketball for Georgetown University, and Annie was also a Division I athlete. She played field hockey for Georgetown University, and we just connected instantly our freshman year. That was what, 2009 now? And we share a lot of differences while we also share a lot of similarities. Annie is maybe 4'11". She is a white woman, and she is part of the LGBTQ community. Annie is amazing, and we love each other. She is one of my dearest friends. We're like Mutt and Jeff together. I'm 6'5". Some of you know me from my New York crew. But we're like Mutt and Jeff together. But we just love each other so much, and we have developed over the years this relationship that is so special. Where we have been able to open the conversation to race relations, and I've been able to talk to her. You know, Georgetown University is a predominantly white university, and I just needed to talk, and sometimes you need to talk to someone that is not like you. So I could do that with her, and we created a safe space for each other where I would share with her a lot of different intricacies about being Black and the Black experience that I have being in these all-white environments, and how that can be very difficult and stressful, and a laundry list of other things that I know that a lot of my white friends don't understand. They can't understand, you know, without someone telling them. But the beauty in our relationship has been that I've been able to share with her firsthand while I've been going through different very pivotal things in my life, about my experience. So fast forward all of that, we have an amazing relationship. We talk about Black Lives Matter. We talk about white lives. We talk about all these different things. We talk about LGBTQ. Fast forward, Annie just graduated from Harvard with her degree in marketing. And I'm so proud of her. And she's one of those people that can really spread the message beyond, globally, about what she knows about Black lives and about being my friend. And that is invaluable. So that's also sort of what I'd like to get out of today. There's a bee. If today I can just spread a message and share something that resonates with you that you can then pass to your white counterpart or your white friend or whomever, or your family member that may just be ignorant, just only knows what they know, then my job has been done. So I'd like to share a message that my friend Annie Wilson sent to me. It may have been the day after, a few days after George Floyd was murdered. And this has just been, 2020 has been a really tumultuous time, very difficult, especially for people of color. And I'm sure we can all understand why. And again, I'm not here to give a history lesson or a lecture. I'm just here to share my story. So I'm going to go ahead now and read from my trusty paper the text that I received from Annie after George Floyd's murder. And it says, quote, "I hope this doesn't sound totally stupid, but I've been thinking about you recently and all the Black people in my life. And I just wanted to say that I love you and I am thinking of you and I am thankful for our friendship. I know we haven't been in as good of touch as we were during and right after college, but I do think of you often and I wish we were in better touch and saw each other more. Also, you are someone who really opened my eyes to a lot of the intricacies of race, both at Georgetown University and generally, which no matter how many Black friends I have, I can obviously never understand fully if I haven't lived it. But I appreciate you having those conversations with me and letting me ask awkward questions to try to understand better and calling me out when I'm being white. I love you. Hashtag Wilson Sisters." And I don't want to read my response verbatim, but basically I said to her that I'm so appreciative of the fact that we can have these conversations and that the service that she's doing for me and the larger Black community is sharing the information that she's learned and paying it forward and passing it on. Because again, like I said, you only know what you know. No one is faulting you for not knowing about Black people or our culture or what we really go through, but it is your responsibility to educate yourself. It is your responsibility to be better than the environment that you grew up in. And Annie understands this. And I don't want to say that she only understands it because of me, but a big part of our relationship has been honing in on this. And I do believe that, I believe that has a lot to do with it. So I think now more than ever, it is time to open your heart, open your mind, open your soul to others. It's time to really try to understand someone else's experience. And to be quite frank, you cannot understand America and American history without understanding the experience of Black people here. Because the reality is, we built this country. We built this country. It may not be in the history books just how I said it, but it is just how I said it. And so it's important that you educate yourself and you learn and you take the time out to read and really connect with people that are unlike yourself. And this is not just for Black people. This is for all different people, all walks of life. We have to open our minds and our hearts to be fully well. Okay, so now we're gonna open it up to Q&A. I think that this could be the most effective way to get some answers to the questions that you've been wanting answered. I know that social media is there. There's a lot of information out there now with the internet, but I truly personally believe that, especially with a matter like this, it doesn't really resonate unless you know someone personally. I think that it hits home a lot harder. and it's much easier to understand. So let's get into it, and forgive the fireworks that you're gonna hear, because you know what time of the year it is. Okay.
What about your experience do you believe is different from what the Black American stereotype is?
So, like I said, I grew up in a predominantly white environment. I identify with Washington, D.C., the greater Washington, D.C. metro area, as I graduated from high school in Washington, D.C., and I went to Georgetown University. However, I really did grow up. I spent my childhood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You know anything about Pittsburgh, the suburbs of Pittsburgh specifically, it is extremely white. So that's kind of, and like a little bit country. So that's kind of where I'm coming from up until age, I want to say 16. I moved to Washington, D.C. and had a change of environment where I was finally, for the first time in my life actually, really around people of color day to day. But growing up in Pittsburgh was very unique to me. I didn't have a black teacher until I went to Georgetown University in the year maybe 2012. It was like my last year of college that I really had a black teacher. To paint a picture for you, I'm lying. In high school, I did have a black teacher about my junior year, but either way, it's like, think about that. Like, imagine growing up in a place where there's no one like you, not even a superior, who is like you. There's no one to vouch for you. That is a very different way to grow up, and a lot of black people, in fact, do grow up that way. I think that a common stereotype is that black people grow up in the hood, that we kind of grow up on the street, and we come from a very specific looking place, and that is very untrue. While there are black people that grow up that way, there are a lot of poor white folks out there in the world. So I think we all need to start looking at the bigger picture. I grew up in kind of a middle class home. I was raised by a single mother, and because I was raised by a single mother, she was extremely busy. She had to work a lot to keep food on the table and to make sure that I was able to do the things that I wanted and needed to do. And so there were a lot of, I said I played basketball growing up on a very competitive level, and I spent a lot of time in white homes. And I have some amazing white friends, and I have some mother figures that are white women. And I'm just saying all of this to say that, there's allyship there. My best friend in the entire world, she went to Georgetown University as well. She is a white woman. And so my experience is much different in that way, where I grew up with white people and I can identify, and I was kind of pulled in both directions. So when I'm at home, it's very black for me. And then when I'm was out in public growing up, it was very white for me. And so I learned how to balance being around very many different groups of people. And I think that, these nuances, these small nuances, are nuances that people don't consider about people of color. We all just get lumped into this general category, right? Especially during a time like this, where there's a lot of police injustice, and there's always been a lot of police injustice and racial injustices, but right now it's being called to the forefront, which is a beautiful thing. But all black people are now getting lumped together. Like, we all share the same experience, we all come from the same place, and we do not. So I think I just want to share that, the most and foremost, that everyone's black experience, just because the color of your skin is brown, that's it. We may not share anything else in common. We may have grown up, you may have grown up in the south side of Chicago, I may have grown up in Beverly Hills, but at the end of the day, the color of our skin is what links us.
Who do you have the conversations with, and how do you even do it?
So this is tough, and I know this has been a challenge for a few of my friends who've reached out to me, and they've said, so sweet, I'm nervous. And that's okay to say. It's okay to reach out to your friends, your black friends, and to tell them, I'm nervous. I don't know what to say. This might sound stupid. But let me tell you right now, as a woman of color, as a Black American woman, you reaching out to your friends of color means the world to them. There's nothing stupid that you can say. Reaching out in a caring way and showing support. That means everything, because for years and years we have been dealing with this over and over and over again. And we've been feeling crazy because we don't have any white allies normally. So now finally in 2020, we have white allyship, and that means a lot. So reach out to your Black friends, tell them that you're thinking about them if you are, and just be genuine. And I promise you, no one will ever turn you away for that. So make sure that you're reaching out to your Black friends and just, tell them that you're thinking about them. It's even okay to say that you don't know what to say, but just do that. And the second thing I would say, just as far as who to have the conversations with, once you reach out to your Black friend or family member or whomever, and you get educated, and you also, we have the internet, everything is at your fingertips. Educate yourself. Instagram is loaded. Go under the Black Lives Matter hashtag and educate yourself. The information is there, and you are responsible to step into that. So educate yourself. And then after that, I'd say it's best to take that information, and you don't need to talk to your 3 or 4 or 5 Black friends about Black Lives Matter and what's going on right now, because trust me, we already know. What you need to do is pay it forward and take that information that you've learned and start spreading it to your white friends. Start spreading it to your racist uncle or whomever in your family who just doesn't know. And I always like to say, you only know what you know. That is just the truest thing. One of my coaches in college would always say that to me, and I just carried that with me through life, is you only know what you know. And I think that's where my understanding comes from, just with being so patient and kind and open to sharing with my white counterparts, is that I know and I recognize that they only know what they know. My whole life, like I said, I've been growing up around in a predominantly white area. I've had to educate myself on white history. I've been forced to step into educating myself on how white people operate. How am I going to be at work in this all-white environment at Exhale? Whereas predominantly white, I have to step into that, and I have to learn how to be, because Black culture is different, and we are different. So when I come to work and I'm in an all-white environment, inherently I am different. And so white people need to start doing the same thing. You need to educate yourself. You need to learn how to be in an environment of all Black people. Learn how to speak to Black people, because we've had to do that throughout our entire history.
If you don't have any Black friends, what can you do?
That's a great question. If you don't have any Black friends, I think first and foremost, you should ask yourself why. Why is that? Why don't you have any friends of color? And when I say Black, for me personally, I mean all brown people, all shades. And when we're speaking about the Black Lives Matter movement, yes, we are talking about Black Americans, but we're also talking about overarching all brown people. And so if you don't have one brown friend, it's very questionable, because just for you as a person and your well-being, you should have people in your life that are different from you, that can share a unique and different perspective on everything. Everybody needs that. Everybody needs that. Just like I need my white friends, you need your friends of color. You need your Black friends. So I think you should ask yourself why. And by asking yourself why, you may learn a lot about yourself. But if you don't have any Black friends, I really encourage you to step outside of yourself and connect with someone different. That could end up being your best friend in the entire world. You just don't know. And the color of your skin has nothing to do with your brain, your mental, your spirit. None of that. Racism is completely learned behavior. If you can learn to hate, you can learn to love. So I just encourage you to learn to love someone different. I just want to thank you all so much for tuning in and listening to everything that I have to say. It really does mean a lot to me. And I'd like to end with a quote that truly resonated with me that I saw on Instagram, actually. This is a quote by a white woman. Her name is Leslie Dwight. So I'm going to share what Leslie had to say because it really moved me. What if 2020 isn't canceled? What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw, that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loud, finally awakening us from our ignorant slumber. A year we finally accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together instead of pushing each other further apart. 2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year of them all.